If you've been shopping for used BMWs,
What? No.
stop. Don't look any further until you check out my list, because I own one of these and there's a list of 5 others on top of it that are skyrocketing in value. Don't miss out on the boat, because in 2026, you're going to see some of these cars absolutely go through the roof. So stick around. I'm going to share you a list of 6 of the best BMWs on the used car market that are going to go way up in value. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. The first BMW that's going way up in value. If you haven't heard already, one of my first experiences way back driving an M car. It's the E46, which ran from 1999 to about 2006. Many years ago, I had 2 different E36 BMWs. I love them. They were analog and they were basic and simple and very connected to the road. But a friend of mine bought himself an E46 M3 and I immediately fell in love. 3.2 liter straight 6 produce an immense amount of performance, but on top of it, you can roll your own gears with 6 speeds of mechanical loveliness. There was also 6-speed SMG, which is the sequentially manual gearbox, which isn't quite as connected, but certainly it allowed those people that definitely didn't have the ability to roll their own gears still to be able to shift fairly mechanically. Many consider this truly the sweet spot of the M packaging. Yes, it had a sweet, high-revving, super linear and super smooth inline 6 that was absolutely a delight on the ears. As a matter of fact, so much, we've also seen prices skyrocket as much as 20 to 30% in the last 4 years. This is one of the old school, really connected analog driving experiences. Many would argue the S54 engine that was featured in this M3 was probably one of the best, truest to the brand that you could ever find. It was sweet, it was powerful, and it was fun. With well over 300 horsepower, what's not to like? Now, unfortunately, there was a few drawbacks. The SMG pump, if you bought the SMG car, those were very, very expensive. That's why in most cases, I always say, stick with the manual gearbox. There were still some issues with potential cracks on the rear subframe, not uncommon issues. So if you're going to get a pre-purchase inspection done, check for subframe challenges as well as cracking or corrosion. A few other minor issues of variable valve timing, called the Vanos systems in BMW's world, they've had their issues. Watch for coolant leaks. Of course, valve cover gaskets, all things that you're going to find from BMWs back in the day. Very mechanical, very simple to fix, and for the most part, do-it-yourselfers like you and I can fix this in our backyard, so it's an easy car to own. Plug it in, put it on a tender, 6 months later, take it out in the spring for one of the best driving experiences you could possibly imagine. You've got to get these while they're hot. There's not many around left that are good quality, low mileage examples, and if you want one of the best BMWs in history, this is your bet. The next car on the list is one I have another friend who bought one of these cars and he took it out club racing. He enjoyed it, used it as a daily. He put his baby seat in the back. It was an absolute behemoth, fast, furious, and honestly, to this day has one of the best sounding 4-liter V8 engines that were naturally aspirated on the market at any point. That's right, we're talking about the E90, 92, and E93 BMW M3s. The coupe, the sedan, as well as a cabriolet were all available in this particular generation that ran from 2008 to about 2013. These cars were indisputable. You can either get a 6-speed manual gearbox or a 7-speed DCT. Now, most reviewers said that even though DCTs are fast shifting, the manual gearbox cars still pulled off the same 0 to 60 and quarter mile times. Take your pick. I've personally seen some very low mileage examples go up in value in the last 5 years by as much as 20 to 30%. It's clear they're on the rise. And again, with the fact that everybody's going with these turbo 4s and turbo 3s and hybrids, people are looking for some of the most engaging driving experiences by BMW. The E92 BMW M3 is probably one of the best you'll ever find. It has a rumble and a roar with that V8 engine that's indisputable, absolutely beautiful. And on top of it, there are a few things you've got to take note of. These cars don't come cheap. They run like a supercar, so they're going to have to need a little extra treatment. Think about the Vanos system. That is not an uncommon issue, as well as the throttle actuators. I had one in my M5 that it spit out a check engine light. There's these little plastic gears on the top of the intake system. They typically wear out because they're plastic gears and then they spit out a code. The car starts running rough, starts surging and hunting, it becomes a bigger issue. Get rid of those. There's even a guy in the UK apparently that will retrofit those with metal gears and you'll never have that problem again. Of course, the regular regime of coolant and oil things to be watching out for. Watch for coolant leaks, check for water pumps, thermostat issues, of course, valve cover gaskets. They're all possibilities. But again, stay on top of that maintenance and you've got a car that's certainly worth keeping for almost indefinitely. Watch these values go up. However, there is one commonly known issue. That's right. It's the rod bearings. Yes, I have an E60 M5. also, and it shares a similar structure. The bottom end of the engine, the interface between the crankshaft as well as the connecting rods, they have the rod bearings, and the rod bearings have a propensity to potentially fail. That's right. So do a little bit of Blackstone testing and make sure that you find out if there's any of that metal in the oil, and you should be good to go. I would strongly suggest changing your rod bearings every 60 to 70,000 miles. Stay ahead of it before it scores the crankshaft, and you're good to go. So on one hand, the S65 V8 engine that you find in these M3s is known to be one of the more problematic engines in the BMW lineup. On the other hand, it's by far one of the best. The next BMWs you're definitely going to want to take a close look at are the E30 generation, and even more specifically, the M3 version. Now, all of the later M3s have inline 6s or 8s or twin turbo this or turbocharged that, but this is from a generation when they were true motorsport. Naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine in either the base trim or, of course, as you migrated up to the M3. Now, the unfortunate part is the M3s are very hard to find, very sought after, and quite expensive. But you don't have to go full on M3. They both have great attributes. The E33 series BMWs ran from 1984 to about 1991. Get a couple major drivetrains associated with these vehicles. You get one of the most common engines is a 2.5 liter M20 inline 6, absolute gem and silky smooth. Or you can get the 2.3 liter inline 4-cylinder engine in the M3 called the S14, an absolute gem. You can get a couple different gearboxes back then, either a 5-speed or a 6-speed manual. Don't bother with the autos here. Nobody wants slush boxes. Remember, manual gearboxes are really where it's at. And for the best driving experience, this is one of the best cars, most rawest car you're going to find. It has such a cult following. So many people love these cars. Now, there are some drawbacks. They've got dated brakes and suspension parts, which by now are probably starting to corrode and start to bang around clunky. You might have to pay attention to bushings and suspension components, as well as brakes. Many of them are likely going to be just very, very dated and aged. A lot of the braking performance and handling wasn't quite what they are today, but again, it's a raw driving experience. Other things to think about are rust. I mean, with a car that goes back to the 80s and early 90s, yes, sadly, rust could be a thing, but shop for a well-kept, well-loved car that you're going to find, possibly something down in the southern US, in California, Florida, Texas. Those are the key places. But that being said, there's always collectors everywhere. Keep your eyes open. Honestly, you're going to see these vehicles start to skyrocket even further. Even though we've seen significant rises in the last decade, they do have that cult status, and they are simple, and they are easy to mod. So get yourself an E30 with a manual, or get yourself even better an E30 M3 if you can find one and sadly afford it, because they are not cheap these days. Those continue to rise in price. The next one is a true gem, and unfortunately they're kind of hard to find because they were built for 1 year and 1 year only. We're talking about the 2011 model year BMW 1M Coupe. That's right, essentially on the 1 Series platform, but it gave you a manual gearbox, 6-speed only, but it featured the N54, which was their 3-liter twin-turbo inline 6, the same engine I had in my 335i. Now, I love the drivetrain, I love the platform. We had some issues, but the difference is my car was dropping in value because it was a garden variety 335, whereas the 1M is going up in value. So you're not throwing money down the proverbial money pit. They do come with some durability issues. The high pressure fuel pump was an issue, as was mine, and mine was done under a recall or a bulletin. Same with the piezo fuel injector, something to think about. Wastegate rattle, that was an issue. 2 turbos, 2 wastegates, double the trouble. You had your standard garden variety of coolant leaks, water pump issues, as well as the oil filter housing problems. Sorry. Yes, I had a plethora of issues, but get past that. Most of it's DIYer. I'm just a DIYer. I don't have fancy technology, but I was able to fix each and every one of those problems on my driveway. Water pump thermostat tied together underneath. Yes, it's a bit of work. It's going to be about 7 or 8 hours on the driveway to take care of it. Get all that done. It is one of the most legendary driving experiences, bar none. It's also its own cult following. Its small, diminutive package means there's very few cars that feel small, tight, compact like that today. The Ferrari 296, for example. Ferrari decided to scale back, realizing people were looking for something that was more fun size, bite size, if you will. You know, smaller footprint that meant the car handles better, is more agile, and that's exactly what the M1M is. It's definitely a car that's skyrocketing in value in 2026. Look around, look hard, look long. They are hard to find, but you find one, it's definitely a keeper. The fifth one is a vehicle that a lot of people call it a boot. It looks like a little boot, and you know, at the time it didn't seem all that interesting. It was kind kind of awkward and strange looking, but that's right. It was a very specific car. And now for that very reason, people are trying to gobble them up. We're talking about a Z3M coupe that ranged from 1998 up to 2002. Couple different engines during that time frame, an S52 or an S54, inline 6-cylinder engines. 3.2 liters of displacement and a 5-speed manual gearbox meant that this was a fun car no matter how you sliced it. I love these cars. I actually had a friend who also had one of these for a while, and he decided to trade it up for a later model 4-liter E92. At the end of the day, he looks back now in a little bit of dismay thinking, you know what, he should have kept both of them because these cars are going up in price. Why? Because it's such a raw car. It's such a great club sport vehicle. The only downside, of course, is maintenance costs are going to start to rise. Parts are going to be harder and harder to find. Always go to the aftermarket. Do a lot of it yourself if you can. Keep those receipts for, of course, because it's more of a collector car these days, it's going to mean the value stays with the vehicle. But unfortunately, there have been some issues. Watch out for some corrosion. Watch out for suspension issues. Specifically, we're dealing with subframe problems again. Cooling problems like the water pumps and thermostats have always been a thing in the BMW world. If you're dropping in coolant levels, there's a problem. Check it. Make sure there's no leaks. Make sure you're not burning it, and you should be good to go. Other than that, people are loving these cars, and they're hard to get because their unique clown shoe design, the low production numbers, the analog driving experience with almost no driving aids, and of course, the strong cult following again, as always, means these prices are going through the roof. Get them while they're hot. I can't believe they made cars like that. Just look what they're building today. Can't hold a candle to the old Z3M coupe. And of course, the next one is one I currently own it. They run from 2006 to about 2010. High revving, F1 derived performance, drivetrains that were absolutely unforgettable. Unfortunately, there's reliability issues. That's right, because I currently own and will keep it literally forever. Watching these values start to climb. Sure, they've been low, they've been slumped. People are running scared. Many don't love them because of the maintenance costs. Even Doug himself said, you know what? These cars are so unreliable, but yet they're one of the very best. Where else do you find a 200 plus mile per hour super saloon? There are not many left on the market. You can get either in a 6-speed manual or in the SMG gearbox, which I happen to have. Now there's a few issues. Of course, with that 507 horsepower, it breaks parts. Yes, rod bearings, just like the E92 M3, that's a potential issue. As are throttle actuators, it's effectively almost the same engine, adding an extra 2 cylinders. Rear differential issues that can shred that. Unfortunately, coolant leaks, water pump problems. It is a fairly simple vehicle in some ways when you look at things like the mechanical water pump, but in other ways, it's got more technology wrapped up in your little finger than NASA's space shuttle. It makes Lamborghinis and Ferraris shaking their boots with the sound of an Eisenman exhaust mounted to the backside of an E60 M5. It's legendary. I don't want to ever sell this car because even though they've bottomed out around $20,000, $25,000, for a reasonable example, we're starting to watch them creep up as people start to notice that the cost of owning vehicles these days is going up to the roof anyway. Hybrid batteries, electric motors, they're all going to cost money. Big modules and the screens means that any vehicle is going to be big bucks to fix these days. If you're going to have a car that's expensive to maintain, it might as well at least deliver the driving experience and not just a bunch of Samsung electronics mounted on your dashboard. This is definitely a legendary car, and you watch these prices are going up and away. With all of that said, right there for later model BMWs, the only ones I would probably buy, and I hope that really answers all those questions for you. Which ones are going up in value and you should seriously consider buying. Hope to see each and every one real soon, everybody. Bye-bye.